Merry Christmas and welcome to Together Forward's YouTube channel. I'm Annette Blankenship. In keeping with the holidays theme and just lowering your stress levels, today we're going to talk about strategies to resolve conflict and have more peace during the holidays and all year round. Conflict can best be described as a clash of opposing wishes or needs or incompatibility between two or more opinions, principles, or interests. And I would interject that there's often strong emotions associated with conflict. In the book, The Crucial Conversations, the author argues that the root cause of many, if not most, human problems in life lie in how people behave when people disagree with them. The author suggests that dramatic improvements in the organizational performance are possible when people learn the skills to resolve conflict and routinely practice them. So how can we handle conflicts? It first starts with our mindset and how we think about conflict. Does conflict bring up thoughts of fights with family and friends that are to be avoided at all costs? Or do you feel attacked the moment someone else's opinion clashes with yours and you immediately go on the defense? Well, the truth is that we're all probably on a sliding scale, somewhere in the middle, depending on what the situation is for each one of us. And how we think about conflict is going to determine how we react. So if we think conflict is bad, we'll either shut down or we'll go on the defense. But neither of these approaches works in all situations, and it doesn't really resolve the conflict in a healthy way. The truth is that conflict can be healthy, and it can get us to the right place. But the key is thinking about it positively and then taking positive and healthy steps to resolve it and getting to the right place. Conflict itself is neutral. Conflict is necessary and conflict is natural. So accepting it in our minds as it's just a part of our life will help us to have a good mindset about it. Learning to accept conflict as a tool will help us to be able to execute strategies that resolve problems and bring us to win-win situations in as many possible ways with others as we can. How we respond to conflict can either make or break the entire conflict resolution process, and we have to remember that it takes both parties working towards a common vision to completely resolve that conflict. We have to remember that we can only control ourselves. So, conflict's purpose is to create a healthy tension that can lead to positive things like clearer understanding of someone else's thoughts and opinions. Conflict can help us to better understand the direction to get more effective relationships. Without conflict, our organizations can get stuck and operate as a status quo versus creating innovation and being on the cutting edge of things. And being on the cutting edge of things creates a profitable business. So conflict usually arises from one of three things. Number one, a lack of direction or understanding of the bigger picture, which creates a lack of alignment. In these cases, working toward a shared vision is what's going to help us to clarify those points that are confused and get to a common purpose and goal. Number two, differences in personality, preferences, and values that each of us have as individuals, they can create conflict. We like things to be done the way we understand them in our heads, but sometimes incorporating someone else's ideas and thoughts and ways of doing things gets us to a better place. Number three comes from poor communication that creates that misunderstanding. And when things are left out, we as humans, we just tend to create stories in our minds. And sometimes the story's right, but most of the time, the story's wrong. Unhealthy conflict is when that conflict isn't managed and it's damaging relationships between people and organizations. It's when battle lines are drawn and we begin to view others' actions and intentions as the enemy, like as in a war. And it hurts the performance of the company overall and just creates a toxic work environment. Okay, now that we understand what conflict really is and how we should think about it and the main reasons for it, let's dive into how to process and strategies for resolving conflict. Number one would be to recognize that the problem exists. Sometimes we hear things, but we're moving so fast, we just miss them. And in retrospect, we realize that if we had dealt with those things earlier, they wouldn't be so intense now. So the first step is to recognize that there is conflict and raise the issue early before those emotions have a chance to fester and take hold. Once you recognize it, you're going to want to define what the real problem is and its source. This is going to help you to understand how the issue started in the first place and be able to agree with what the disagreement is really about. Number 2, create a safe environment. In Steve Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, we learn of habit number 5, one of my favorites. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. So find a safe and private place to talk and then begin the conversation by understanding the other person's point of view. To do this, you're going to need to learn to manage your own emotions. Keeping yourself calm goes back to how you think about conflict. If you view it as helpful, your emotions pretty much should stay calm. And if you view it as being attacked, you're either going to shut down or you're going to go on the defense. Also, showing empathy can diffuse the situation and show you that you are really wanting to understand the other person's perspective. If you actively listen to that perspective and let the other person have full say, then when you've completely understood the issue from their perspective, then being able to respond with what you believe to be your part in the conflict. What did you misunderstand and how did you contribute? Acknowledging your part is going to go a long way in displaying humility and will help the other person to just want to cooperate in the resolution. Now, all of that depends on what's going on. So you're going to want to also determine the resolution. There's some strategies that you can learn how to respond to each situation. If you need to think about the situation before coming up with a resolution strategy, you can either end the initial meeting and let the other person know that you just like some time to process the information and really be able to think about it. You may also want time to really investigate further so you can be sure that you're solving the right problem and get to the root cause of the situation. Which strategy you use is going to depend on your unique situation. And I've included some examples to help you with that understanding for each one. Okay, so collaboration strategy. This strategy is best to be applied for most of the time. It says, I win and you win, win-win. It's involving working with the other person to find a solution that benefits both parties to this problem at hand. It's going to address and satisfy concerns of both sides. This approach is an opportunity to get a mutually beneficial result. For example, I worked for a company where the direction was limited because we were implementing new processes, new technologies, and we were towing the line between cutting-edge ways of working and ensuring that we were satisfying our audit requirements for our company. So conflict arose because of these concerns over the traditional ways of doing things and then covering ourselves from a regulatory perspective. And we wanted to be able to move faster and with more agility than we'd been able to do in the past. So this meant we had to really collaborate together to resolve the conflict and the concerns on both sides. I'm happy to say that because we collaborated, we came up with a workable solution that not only met the concerns of both sides, but also allowed us to answer those audit concerns in a way that satisfied everyone's interest. Okay, compete, that's the next strategy. You'd only want to use this type of resolution strategy when you are in an emergency situation or if an unpopular decision must be made or it involves a vital issue that requires a clear, quick decision, quick actions needed. Competing means I win, you lose. And let's face it, sometimes conflict's not going to end with a solution other than the other party sticking with their own opinions. Sometimes people tie their self-esteem and loyalty to supporting their cause, even when that cause may impact others. And you'd only want to use this method when achieving the goal is more important than pursuing the actual relationship. So competing really does nothing for the relationship, and it doesn't build trust. So this strategy, again, should be used sparingly. For example, let's say one of your team members is acting aggressively toward another team member, but maybe she just doesn't realize that she's, coming across as being a bully, and all attempts that you've made to resolve it peacefully have failed. There's a lot that would go into this strategy and way more than I can discuss here, but what you'd want to do is you'd want to employ this strategy to shut down the aggressive behavior and ensure safety for all team members. So the next strategy is avoid. This strategy says, I want out and I'm going to withdraw. In this strategy, avoiding is used to allow time for tensions to ease and buy time for preparing a better strategy. Avoiding may be used for conflicts of low importance to save time, or you'd want to use the strategy if conflict isn't worth the time or trouble and you just want to avoid a loss. This strategy should be used when the goal is to delay. However, if avoidance is used often, employees are going to become fearful of bringing up new ideas and issues, and instead they're going to be focused on their own needs instead of what's important for the business. The reason here is that if leadership consistently decides to avoid things being brought to their attention, then they're not going to believe that their feedback matters. So an example here is when issues arise between your team members, that they can resolve themselves. When my children were growing up, they fought all the time. They fought over just about everything. And at first, I would employ the competition strategy where, I'm coming in and I'm making a quick decision and I'm telling everybody how the law, right? But I could see that they weren't really resolving things on their own. So I made a transition more to avoiding, to allow them to figure it out on their own. And there were times that I'd still have to step back in, as a parent, to resolve that help them resolve that conflict. But most of the time, I didn't need to get involved. And I noticed the same pattern when new teams are forming. So if I got involved as the leader and began to settle their disputes, this did nothing for their relationship. So I avoided resolving their conflicts, and I would tell them that I was avoiding it to allow them to settle things between themselves until it got out of hand. And sometimes I would have to employ other strategies like either collaboration or competition to get them to a better place. This one is a tough one, and it takes wisdom to know where the line is in each situation. Okay, the next strategy is accommodating. This means I'm going to give in and just pursue the relationship. And you're going to want to use this method if it's more important to care for the people than the issue at hand. This goal is to yield. My husband and I experienced this strategy when we were eating out in a new restaurant. So my husband had ordered a dish that, most Mexican restaurants have, and when the waitress brought it, it wasn't what he thought he'd ordered. So she showed him on the menu where it was exactly what he had ordered. Now, at that point, he just accepted the dish because he realized he didn't read it and it was his fault. So through the conversation with the waitress, though, she realized that we were new customers and she offered in to bring us a different dish in order to make sure that we had a great experience. Of course, my husband declined the offer, but it did make an impression on us that they were willing to accommodate us to ensure that our experience was positive. Just that interaction alone made us want to go back, and several times, in fact. And now this restaurant, it couldn't stay in business if they did this with every customer every time somebody had a complaint. But in this case, just the offer worked in their favor. Okay, compromise. Meeting others halfway. This means that each side is going to win a little and each side is going to lose a little. And this creates some division. We experienced this when we worked with a car salesman a few years ago. We offered to pay $33,000 for a new car based on the Blue Book value. But the salesman, he wanted more, and he offered to throw in some extras that we really weren't interested in. And after a lot of back and forth and several hours later, we settled somewhere in the middle with both sides taking a loss for what each party wanted. We didn't walk away with a good experience, and we vowed to never go back. But we got the car, and the salesman got most of the commission that he was hoping for. And you can see that this long-term would have an effect, and it would get tiring. But enduring it to get what we needed was okay every few years, but still, my personal opinion is that there's a lot more innovation to be realized in this field. But most people hate the car buying experience. Anyway, number 4, going back to the steps, is to resolve. The last step in conflict resolution process is to create a plan to resolve. The number 1 goal in any conflict is to resolve it and to meet a common goal or a shared vision. To do that, you're going to need to work together to create the best solution given the circumstances and determine responsibilities. Once you've got a plan in place, evaluate how things are going and re-strategize for the future. Well, I hope this helps you to better resolve conflict in your own life and in your business, and let me know your stories and resolutions in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and Merry Christmas. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and click that like button. Every like helps us to reach new people. And if you want to see new videos on leadership, strategy, and project management to help you with your business or career every week, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Also, please let us know what your top leadership, strategy, and project management challenges are so that we can make some new videos in the future with your feedback. Thank you for watching. I'm Annette Blankenship, and I'll see you in the next video.